Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me this Friday night. I know there's a lot of places, a lot of other places you could be. If you're here, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate everyone that supports and joins the show. Just want to share my gratitude for everyone that helps contribute and support me along my journey. So, just real quick before we get started, if you guys are watching on Facebook, or if you're watching live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube Live, just go ahead and drop down in the comments, just a hashtag Team Live. That way I know you're watching it live. If you're going to watch the replay, just same thing. Drop the hashtag Team Replay, and I'll go back and answer the comments and anything like that, any questions that you have after the show's over. So, again, you can follow us live on our Facebook page at Made from Scratch. That is the name of the group page. And then you can also follow us on, you can follow me on Instagram. It is _Gabriel_Leal. Then you can follow me on Twitter. It is at Gabe's My Word Vomit. I know it's a funny thing, but that's what I picked. And then you can also follow me on my YouTube channel, and I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to watch, or you can jump on there live right now. We're broadcasting on there. So let me go ahead and get started with the show tonight. Okay, I already got cool. Let me get started with the show tonight. My guest is a good personal friend, and it seems like I have a lot of these creative people like this in my life. She's a published author. She is a ESL educator, and she's also a activist for immigrant struggles and a human rights advocate as well. So I would like to welcome to the show my friend, and I hope you guys are ready for Catalina Medrano. So there you are. Hey, Kat.
Hi, Gabe. It's a pleasure to be here tonight.
Thank you.
So excited to be here.
Thank you for joining me. Yeah. So again, I've had a long line of former Lancaster alums who've joined me on here, who've gone out and done a lot of things. A lot of them, personally as well. I had Eric on. I've had Koala on, and then I've had you on. Oh, and I've forgotten I've had Opal on. So I've had quite a bit of former classmates, and one of the things that we always talk about is just how we all just came out from that same little small Texas town,
little pod.
Yeah, and somehow or another, it's just we've spread out like wildfire, and we are blazing our paths out there. So it's amazing. It's amazing. And the funny part is that I'm still not done digging with former people who I went to school with. So it's going to be I still got a lot to come, and it's going to be fun reaching out to those people. So let's go ahead and get started. Yeah, I know, and that's again. One of the most amazing things whenever I've been talking to a lot of the people afterwards, and after we have the interviews and everything like that, it's just talking about, man, how did so many people just so creative in this one little tiny pocket, just we're all formed together. I mean, I mean, it might be like that for some places, but I don't run into people that say, oh, I've had. I've told people I've had several friends that are authors that all came from the same school. We went out there and published books. And
we all had the same teachers. It's funny. I think you and I were talking about this the other day. And the one thing that comes to mind is the courtyard. You remember the courtyard for lunch?
Yes.
I think that courtyard sponsored us.
Right.
Because we fed off of each other. We shared ideas. I think we all knew back then that we all had different talents. Like we all had different areas of strength. Some of us were visual artists. Some of us were into music. Some of us were into writing. There was a lot of us that were into writing.
Yeah.
I think what surprised me is a lot of us were into visual arts, but later on came out as writers.
Yeah.
And yeah, so no, I really blame the courtyard. Lunchtime in the courtyard for all of this big explosion of, because we fed off, we shared ideas,
Yeah.
and we validated each other. Mm-hmm.
And that was, and again, it formed a lot of lasting relationships that went just beyond, just being out of high school. And again, I'm grateful for still being connected with a lot of you guys. It's been amazing. And then again, the integration of social media just made it a lot easier for everybody to get together and connect. I mean, this is what we're doing now. Thank you for social media. We're hitting I'm getting to interview people and reach new people as well. So this is the fun part about reaching out and connecting with people. And even though we've had conversations and we've talked, it's a little bit different seeing somebody again going, "Hey, what's up?"
It's so different. It is.
I've had that sensation, because I've reached out and I've talked to Eric before, especially when he had his books. I've talked to Koala all the time, and we have these conversations, right? But it's different when you're sitting there and it feels like I'm almost like close to each other and we're like hanging out again. So it's pretty awesome.
It feels like we're in the same room, really. It's like this third space where we're in the same room. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. So, next time I get a chance. And then on top of that, I bring back a lot of old names. So they go, "God, I haven't heard that name in a long time." And it always, I'm blabbing because I always have fun times talking about that. But
because it's reconnecting. That's right. That's what it is.
It's what it is, right?
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Real quick, let's go ahead and get started with the interview.
Okay.
There's a couple things that we wanted to talk about, and one of the first things that I wanted to ask you about was, when in your journey did you realize that you actually wanted to, pursue a career in becoming a teacher, or what drew you to wanting to go out and educate?
Yeah, this is really a funny question because I think my answer is really unconventional. I graduated in August of 2001, so that was like right before September 11th. Okay, and it was actually August 11th, 2001, and the economy was already shaky. I don't know if you remember. There's a lot of there's a lot going on there. So the people in my graduating class, we just didn't have, maybe we had to be creative if we wanted to be working. We had to really kind of be flexible.
Yeah.
I always say I got pulled into education. Education recruited me, and I studied international relations and Spanish. I did a little bit of business in Mexico, so I'd taken some classes in business in Mexico. And I really wanted to do just either business or just continue doing something. I was ex-military. So I was really thinking about doing something else, but the need for bilingual educators is huge.
Yeah.
And so I went to a job fair at the university, Texas State University, San Marcos, go Wildcats. and so I got recruited right out of the stadium. And I mean, I signed a contract the day I met the guy, and I'll never forget his name, Dr. Gonzalo Ramirez.
Wow.
Yeah, that's why I got into education, because it at the time I was hungry. I always say it's because I was hungry, literally hungry.
Exactly.
So go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry. You go.
I ended up loving it. It was an accidental love at second sight. I had gone into AmeriCorps ahead of time, kind of working my way through college. I wanted to go into, like I said, something that had more to do with social sciences, and I got put into like a volunteer ESL position as a freshman and sophomore in college, and I thought it was a fluke. But I kind of thought too that I was being profiled. I was like, they see that I'm a female, they see that I'm Latina. I think that they're wanting to put me in this ESL pocket, and I pushed back a little bit. I was like, this is not really what I see for myself. And the guy's like, well, I need you there. you're doing a good job. And I was like, man, I do like it. So I stayed and ended up being a career. I mean,
Wow.
and I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
pretty amazing that and when I talk to people and we always discuss their journey and their story, I hear a lot about that, where it wasn't my intention to
Mhm.
start down this path, but it's funny
Right.
how it always leads me where I'm supposed to go. That's been the theme when I talk to people,
Hmm.
it's always wonderful that whenever people find their passion and their purpose, that they get up every day and it's a joy. It's a gift. It's a blessing. And,
It is for
you
sure.
know, you're doing something out there it's impacting other people's lives and it's making a really big difference. And whenever I make a decision like that now, those are a few of the key factors that I think about whenever I make a decision is, hey, will it help out somebody somewhere, and how much of an impact will it make? So
Right.
again, this is why I started doing this, right? It was a challenge to go out there and do this and put myself out there. And again, part of the question
For
was,
sure.
what will this help somebody, and will it make an impact? And I think slowly but surely I'm starting to see it,
I think so.
yeah, focusing and funneling a little bit more into exactly what I'm supposed to be molded into. So it's been an amazing journey. And again, it's your path. You never know where it's going to take you. And you can plan as much as you want. You do
Right.
whatever, but it's always where God's going to take you where He wants you to go, and that's the amazing
If
part.
you, yeah,
You
that's
know,
right. If you're open to it,
yeah,
it's going to be a wild ride.
yeah,
It won't
exactly.
be boring.
You know,
For
so
sure.
yeah, so again, um, so let me ask you something.
Okay.
When we're talking about education, so if somebody were interested uh, in getting into a career like
Mhm.
what you're doing now in ESL, what advice would you give somebody who was looking to do that and said, saw somebody like you doing it and said, you know what, that's interesting. I would love to do that and make an
Mhm.
impact on these children's lives. So what advice
Right.
would you give to somebody trying to get into that field of becoming an educator like that?
Right. So I'm actually in the dual language ESL branch, right? So I do mostly dual language, which means that a percentage of the day is done in the language of instruction, which is typically Spanish.
Hmm.
And then the other half of the day, because I'm kind of in a 50-50 model, the other half of the day is going to be in English. So in an ESL model, the whole day is in English, but a lot of support to help the students make that meaning out of the content is taken. So in ESL, the whole day is in English, and in bilingual, a fraction of the day is in Spanish. And the content, the books, the textbooks, everything is in Spanish in bilingual for a
Yeah.
certain amount of the day.
So
So go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so are there any kind of like certain regulations or anything that you would have to follow as far as course curriculum, state requirements, stuff like that?
Sure, absolutely. So the state has what we call TEKS, and their essential knowledge and skills, and it's the content that we're supposed to teach at every grade level, and so we have to follow that. And even in the bilingual classes, when we're teaching, let's say, Spanish language for reading, reading is going to look a little different in Spanish than it does when you're just learning English.
Yeah.
So there are different TEKS for that. But I think your original question is what would I say to somebody that is interested? Is that right?
Yes.
So I would say education is a place where you go to make an impact and change people's lives. And that sounds really cliche, but
No.
but it is. And then when you step into the space of ESL and bilingual education, dual language education, then you step into an additional space of advocacy. So you're no longer just teaching for the love of teaching, and you're no longer just focusing just on instruction, but you're focusing on like sociocultural development,
Yeah.
socio-emotional pieces. You have children that come from trauma, kids that come, I mean, pretty much when you change countries, that's a traumatic experience. I don't care if you have money or not, right?
Yeah.
So you come with money or not, it's going to be a change. So yes, you step into a place of advocacy. So you're not just going to be a teacher, you really are going to be an advocate for that student as well as the community. And you're going to be helping them as they transition to the United States and the systems that work here.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've helped out parents with things like, you know, situations with the police, situations with immigration, paperwork, how to handle high school students that are just now trying to face like questions of identity and substance and things like that that the parents maybe didn't know because where they came from, they never faced those things. So, I mean, we're doing a lot of bridging and a lot of cultural bridging as we step into the classroom. So that's what I love about bilingual dual language and ESL education. You're in it not just for the teaching, you're in it for the kid, the community, the family. And, you know, it's very fulfilling.
Yeah. And it does seem, it does seem like the, you know, the task that you have to deal with is a little bit more daunting than maybe a regular teacher. I mean, I don't know. I'm just assuming because, again, you know, whenever you're teaching just all English, everybody's already on the same level, a lot of the
right.
same principles. Where you're actually having to cross over and do dual dimensional work. You know, so that's kind of, you know, that's why I said it's a big undertaking. So, you know, that would lead into like what you were talking about. So you really have to have a love and a passion for it because it is something that you just don't, a kind of an undertaking you wouldn't say, oh, I'm going to take on a whim and just go.
Right.
I'm just going to get my teacher certificate and go be an ES. No. It's a lot. It's work. Okay. But let's go on to something. Yeah. Uh-huh. So let's go on to something a little bit on a different path here. And I want to talk about your writing. So if people don't know, you are a published author as well, which is pretty exciting. It's somewhere that I'm heading myself. This close, so I'll be there too, and I can add my name to the list of authors who've come from Lancaster High School. But you've done I believe it's 2 standalone books, and you were also part of another book with a group of women.
Sandy Johnson, that's right. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about the concept of your book. And for those who don't know, it's about Napantala, which is, you know, somewhere a concept of the middle ground. So this is kind of interesting to me because my second book is almost along the lines of what you've written about, because it's about somebody's journey along the middle plane, right?
Yeah.
It's a very interesting subject because, you know, it goes with, I think it goes between 2 different worlds, and there's somewhere in the middle, you know. So
that's right.
Why don't you kind of explain a little bit to people who don't exactly grasp the concept a little bit what it is?
Napantla. So Napantla is, you know, it's an Aztec word, a Nahuatl word, and it means in betweenness. So when I guess trying to think about it conceptually, in current Chicano literature, Chicanx literature, we do a lot of borderland references and a lot of frontera references. So there's an author that a lot of us admire. Her name is Gloria Anzaldúa. And she talks a lot about this space and this middle space when you're kind of in this borderland between 2 places. And I think as a Mexican-American person, first generation, I found myself very much between spaces. And I didn't realize that I was in Nepantla growing up. I thought Nepantla was just normal. That, I mean, yes, I think that would be the right way to say it.
Yeah.
Because my parents were from the border, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I would spend a lot of time going across into Matamoros, which I happen to know that your grandma's over there. I used to spend some time with my cousin over there.
Yes.
Went to college together. Yeah, so we'd go to Matamoros. We'd spend a lot of time in Matamoros. We'd come back to Texas, and so we'd go back and forth from Mexico to Texas. And there's that region there, that space there, that's right there in between, I guess, mainstream America, I would say, above San Antonio. That space, that area from San Antonio to the Rio Grande, some would call it the Rio Bravo, right? That space right there has its own dialect, its own lifestyle, its own culture, its own food, its own expression. So that is this whole experience of Nepantla. Now that's what it is like in current Chicanx literature that we use, I guess, as a reference to Gloria Anzaldúa.
Yeah.
But I made an extension to this middleness in life, because a lot of times we find ourselves between two places as people, have one stage of our lives to another, or from one situation to another, and we're kind of caught in this space in the middle, leaving the place that we're from and not quite where we're going to be going to yet.
Yeah.
And so, yes. And so that space it's a hard space to navigate. And I think that knowing that Nepantla exists and having a name for it, to me, it's helped me own that a little more, and it's helped me just relish that experience a lot more and get more out of it, instead of being so nervous about it. Just really just relishing the in-betweenness.
Yeah, and again, that it's such an interesting subject, because I'm doing a lot of research on. There you go. That's somebody else who believes in you, right?
That's right. That's great.
So, like I said, I do a lot of research about it, and one of the things that I've come to understand about it, because there's always a middle ground. It's the same thing whenever you're dealing with your mind. There's always a middle ground between your conscious and subconscious mind, right? So whenever that's what's so interesting, is that there's that middle area is always the great part that everybody wants to know about. It's all because everybody else is always talking about, well, you understand this about your conscious mind, you understand this about your subconscious mind, but that again, that middle gray area is always funny, so that's why you see people who sleepwalk, right? They're not actually conscious, but they are conscious enough to get up and have movement and understand. So you are in a middle ground there when you're there. So that was why I was so interested and wanted to research the subject, because that's what I'm kind of heading towards in my second book. So and and exactly, and it goes across cultures. So it's not just it's not just about the studies and all the research has been done on it. It's been years and years and years ingrained into different areas of different cultures. So, and each culture has its they have their name or a description of it, because it's always been there.
Right. But I think Nepantla almost romanticized that place for me. It made this it gave me permission to have this mystical, romantic experience of just the growth that takes place between that time. And so a lot of my books talk about that. I mean, it talks about transitioning out of, one situation into another, so change that takes place there. My first book is, the first publication was with Miguel Angel Cametili, that talks a little bit about coming out of really probably a real difficult situation that I was trying to navigate and coming into a healthier situation now. The next piece was Puerta Esperanza, and it talks about sometimes some of the ups and downs and even mistakes that we make during that in-betweenness. My third book in Nahuatl is going to be talking about how to navigate that space socially when you are in between, maybe marginalized, maybe not marginalized, and how do you navigate those places and what it feels like. So, yeah, Nepal is an incredible subject. I think it's just developing.
Exactly. So, real quick before we go any further, I just want to thank the people who've been hopping on live. Some of these people you're going to know. Frank Canello's here, cool guy. Yeah. Bobby Gorman,
Hey, Bobby.
Let's see, Jason Hoover, Leo Calderon, who's a friend of mine. Pato Vines is a real cool dude. We met the other day. Of course, Eric. Wow, Eric's here. Awesome.
Eric.
So, I want to thank all these people for really hopping on and supporting me along this journey, because it's, again, I got on here to, create a forum, create a tool that I could use to share not only my passion for expressing myself, but also people who are in my lives and people that I meet out on social media who have the same passions and desires, and they have that same fire to change the world and to go out and make a difference. So that's the people that I try to look for and invite on here and offer them the opportunity to come on here and talk and just discuss what's going on in their lives. And again, all of us have a story, all of us have a journey, and again, we all add value to lives, to somebody's lives, whether it's here, there, whatever. We all do, so
and the more we walk in the purpose that we have, right, in our gifting and our talents, the more we give each other permission to do that, like you are here through this publication, I think the more that influences and affects each other in a powerful way. So thank you for that. Thank you for bringing this forward. This is amazing. I mean, I knew that you were looking for something and you kept dabbling in and out of this. I'm going to try this and that. And you have always been a fantastic orator.
Yeah.
Well, this is great.
So again, and the reason I want to get this word out and introduce people to this sort of forum, because once you get in here and you start learning how to navigate it and adjust it, it's really a good tool to actually use when you go out there and when you're trying to make a difference. Right. So I tell everybody, if you're into marketing, sales presentations, if you're into, even we were talking about, you could use this in education, right? You can.
Yeah, for sure. Making online courses.
Exactly. This would be an amazing way to reach out to people who normally would be out of the grasp of, learning from somebody like you, because they said, well, she's in Dallas. I can't. Well, now there is no limitation. There is no, so going out and finding things, stuff like this and putting it together and learning how to use it is part of the fun part of discovery. And when I started wanting to learn about all this stuff, I kind of thought I was going to be overwhelmed, because I'm not I know a little bit of technical, but I'm not that technical where I'm like, hey, I got it all figured out. I know how to do this. Sure. But when I started just hopping in and found out how simple the tool was to use, I tell everybody now, my 12-year-old daughter is my technical director. So
I love it. I love it.
If she can figure this out, right?
Thank you. Hi, shout out to her.
So,
for sure.
If she can figure this out and help me put all this stuff together, then I think as adults, we can go out there and do the same thing, because this is a wonderful tool. And not that kids don't use this stuff to their advantage, but even apps like TikTok, right? Kids go on there and they start using it to show dance videos. That's fine and great. Same thing that they did with Instagram, but now they're starting to see that these apps and these platforms, they are tools to go out there and to not only grow yourself and grow your business, but you can also, reach new clientele, which is why I tell everybody, man, if you're interested in growing yourself, you have to jump on and do something like this, because even 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 writing a book, right? There's you can your book you can actually write a workbook to go along with courses and stuff that you want to go out there and teach.
Yeah.
And so, and again, this can be a link to doing everything interactively, which is it's the way of the future, because again, I tell everybody, you have the tool right here. This right here in your hand, this is a computer. This is a tool. You can use this. So essentially, everything that I build and I do, like for my show prep and everything else, I do it from here. Literally, I can create, I can make the pictures, I can do everything from the palm of my hand. And this is how far we've gone ahead in technology. So I think it's time that we, as innovators and creators, have to start catching up with technology.
Right. So I think that we have an advantage that we are, I guess, young enough to be able to feel fresh and excited and invigorated by all these apps. But I think some of us do have to kind of get over that little, because we weren't raised with a phone in our hands. We weren't raised on TikTok. So these are spaces that we're having to learn how to step into and master.
And again,
you're opening that door for me anyway.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to go in and take a look.
So and it's interesting again. So because you can. I mean, if you can, that's why I'd say I wrote this down at the beginning of my show. I put it at the beginning. So if you can imagine it, you can build it. It's that simple. So it's amazing. It's amazing that we can sit here and have this conversation. We can sit here and do all this, and I'm so glad that I've wandered into this, because
for sure.
It's a way for me to introduce. It's a way for me to introduce wonderful people who I've already known and had the honor of having, be part of my life and be supportive of who I am, to introduce them to the world and say, look, check these people out, because, if they've been able to help me, I'm pretty sure they're open to helping other people grow and develop, because that's only going to make us stronger as a community, as a society, as a world. So, I preach that, and I had the lady I had on last night. She's creating she's creating an app for kindness for kids to help teach them. Because it's you would figure that, well, everybody's got manners. Well, I think that's kind of gone away a little bit. And this is a way to teach manners and kindness and compassion in the form that they'll understand in an app. They can go on there and go.
Yeah, because it's the interpersonal skills. When you're on an app and you're doing things in technology, your people skills and sharing space with people is not necessarily something that you work on. And I deal with that every day with kids. And we bump into me. What do we say? Okay, I'm sorry. And I have to model that, like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it does. Sometimes they'll look at me like I'm from, Planet X.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sorry. I apologize for hitting you. That was not, like I ran into you or whatever. Yeah. So, but it has to be taught. She's absolutely right. Spot on. Good for her.
Yeah. And she's not, and not only she's also launching also launching a workplace app, because, as adults, sometimes we forget, we need refreshers, whatever it is. So I support it fully, because I said, that's a wonderful idea, because she came from the same background. She was an educator. She spent 20 years as an educator. So she kind of saw kids being kids, the same kind of thing that you're telling me about, right?
Yes, right.
On a constant basis.
It's innocent. It's not something that they do on purpose. It's something that they do unconsciously. Yes.
Yeah. So again, just like you said, they do it unconsciously.
Yes.
The subconscious mind can always be retrained. It can always be retaught. You never forget how to tie your shoes once you learn how to do it. So that's the way that I tell everybody. So if you program your mind to learn to adapt to kindness and positivity first, those are the things you're going to go to first whenever you have a natural reaction. You're not going to, because you don't have to learn how to lie. You don't have to learn how to be negative. You already learned how to do it. You know,
Sure.
it's a natural reactive to help protect you. That's the way your mind works. So you have to reprogram it and retrain yourself. So, my kids, for example, hey, who got into cookies? You got cookies? And she's got, my daughter have a cookie behind her back. No, I don't have a cookie. Come on. I get it. I know.
Who said cookie?
Yeah.
I only have one. I have two cookies. He only said one cookie.
Yeah. So that's, again. So
right.
It's a beautiful thing to be able to do all this. So, and now let's go on. Let's go a little bit further. And my next question for you, Kat, is, what your passion for, or excuse me, I'm sorry, I skipped the question. I wanted to do this one first. This is the one that interested me. So, how do you approach, your creative process whenever you're writing, or whenever you're coming up for, a comprehensive curriculum for your students? What's the thought process whenever you think about what you're going to either teach, or you're going to sit down and write? Because we all have a process that we go through, and for each person it's a little bit different. So,
sure.
What is your approach?
So I do a lot of consulting with school districts too, and so I think at this point, a lot of the curriculum I have, I've kind of been doing it for some time. I've learned it, I develop it. Recently, I've been asked by different school districts on how to create like more culturally responsive teaching. How can I do better approaches in biliteracy and things like that. I love a mission. I mean, I love looking at seeing a problem and solving it, and finding a different approach that might be a little unorthodox, or even hitting topics that people might find difficult to grapple with. For example, the whole idea of culturally responsive teaching. A lot of the teachers that are maybe non-minorities will step in and say, "How do I approach that?" And so I try to take really creative ways of just talking to them and practical ways of how to just reach students that are people of color and students that are ethnic minorities or linguistic minorities in class. So yes, the whole idea of just problem solving. I love to be given a mission, and I love for the mission to be difficult, because when I see that, I embrace the challenge, and I try to find a really exciting approach to making it work. And so, I use a lot of music in my teaching, and I use a lot of creating common experiences, so people can see firsthand that it's not hard. I mean, finding bridges and finding ways to connect kids to content, even kids from different backgrounds, is really not that hard. It sounds difficult, I think, because we use big words for it, but we do it every day in our small towns. We do it every day in Dallas when we just say hi to somebody. We never think about who the person is or where they're from. And if they are, maybe the way that we address them is just, maybe we say something that they would know, something that's exciting to them. We can see, I don't know, sometimes we'll go into just trying to trigger what somebody knows in order to bring them out and help them access the space that we share. So
yeah. So I call it breaking it down to it, like in mathematics and fractions. I call it breaking it down to the lowest common denominator, the LCD, right? So and for me, I say LCD because I talk about love, compassion, and development, because you can break that down. Those are all three easy concepts that everybody can understand.
Every human experience is that, yes.
Yeah.
And I think, yes. And we need to help people understand that, because they don't know, everybody doesn't know how to speak to those things. Sometimes people, I think, have like filters, and they feel like they don't have permission to, and I'm here to help them just step into that, and don't even think about it so much. Just remember that we do have like the LCD needs. Everybody has the LCD needs, and when we speak to each other's LCD needs, we're all good.
Exactly. So that's always why because I've talked to, I interviewed a mathematician, right? And one of the things is math never lies. Math,
Sure.
So again, that's a mathematical equation, breaking it down to the lowest common denominator, because that's what you're supposed to do. And the LCD is always love, compassion, and development. And when so when you can take that.
Teachers do that. Right? We steal ideas from others. When people have a better idea, we take it.
She helped me with it. So I was like, man, can I use that? Because it's a wonderful way to describe it,
For sure.
And and that was from her perspective, because she was a mathematician and incredible lady. We had a wonderful conversation, and again, she likes to do that with helping people, and her thing is marketing strategies and all that stuff there. But again, her backstory was incredible. That's why I was drawn to her, because she was homeless. She had a lot of adversity in her life. She was an orphan, so coming up in that background and still being able to, and she was diagnosed with ASD, which is autistic spectrum disorder. So from all that adversity and still being able to find a path where you can go out there and still grow and help people, I mean, why wouldn't you want to speak to somebody like that? I mean, they're messy.
Right, these are potential. Other people would see them as setbacks, but she sees them as talents. I mean, she sees them as strengths. And I think a lot of our things that we see as difficulties or struggles, really, I always tell the people that I work with and the students that I work with, whatever you're struggling with right now, it's because you're supposed to use that in the future to help other people strengthen that area. So you're navigating that forest right now because you have to become an expert at it, because that's going to be your charge in the future. So that's exactly what you're telling me right there is, yes, she stepped up and she accepted that, and that's her strength.
Yeah. And that's what I call her superpower. We all have that. We all have that in us somewhere, and it just sometimes it takes a little mining to find that inside of all of us. So whenever I get the opportunity, that's why I love having these conversations with people, because even though they might be educators, creators, writers, whatever, it's the spirit and it's the creativeness that they have inside of them that always comes out, and it's always what shows people, hey, there is a path, there is a light, there is a way, there is something out there. So somebody's out there watching this right now, maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but somewhere along the line, somebody will see this and they'll go, you know what, there's hope, there's a path. And one of the goals that I wrote down at the beginning of the year was to help one person every day. If I can help one person every day, I've made an impact. So that's been the theme of my year. Has been, helping out others and challenging myself. So so far, I'm trying to do both, and I'm loving the journey. Even though, sometimes I fall flat on my face, but it's worth the time and the effort. It's a learning lesson for me. So
you're loving the partner.
Yeah. So, and somebody told me this and I heard it and I said, you know what, this is such a wise thing to hear. He said that, throughout your life, you're always going to be a constant student. So accept that, because you always have to learn. The moment you stop learning, you're not growing. Yeah. So I love that. And, as I sit here and I get further along and doing this more and more and more, I hope to. I don't look for this for money. I just look to trying to find an audience, so that when I can find people that are that diamond in the rough, that little gem, and bring them on here and introduce them to the world, that their words and their stories will make the impact on somebody. So again, this is my tool to go ahead and say, I can help one person today. One person. If you can hear something out of this interview that gives you, that spark or that one little light, that little thing, I've done my job. And
It helped me today.
Yeah.
through the app and through the LCD. I'm taking that with me. I'm taking both of those with me.
So, and that's just the way. It's a wonderful way to live, because then you find so much. I find so much joy, and I get so much out of doing stuff like this than I do if I were to donate money. I would rather donate my time. I would rather do something like this because I think it's more impactful. And don't get me wrong, if you got the money and you've built
Sure.
wealth and you want to give your abundance because you feel that's what God's telling you, albeit
that's their purpose, right?
That is what you were here to do. But for the rest of us to say, well, I don't have the money to donate. Hey, you got the currency of time, my friend. Everybody,
effort, time, will, capability, health.
And again, I tell everybody, current time is the one currency that you can waste and never get back. So it is a currency. So if you want to go out there and volunteer, don't wait. Go sign up somewhere. If you want to go make a difference in your community, go find a local church. Go find,
Go teach English for free at a church. Go teach English for free at a community center.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here to help you out. I can get you resources. There's people that need help and they don't know how to get access to that help. They want to participate more in the events in society here in a more productive way. So
yeah. Again, so that leads me to your next question. My next question for you was, okay, what's next for you? What is your next step into your career path? What are you pushing for? What's the next thing that you're really putting your heart and soul into right now?
Thank you for asking that. That's always such a hard question, but I think my biggest thing is just looking at consulting, developing. I want to also create online classes. I want to learn to navigate these spaces. That's my next immediate step. I want to be able to take a lot of the ideas that I have and that I even use in my classroom and really get them out there and start putting them in the public's hands, because I'm using a lot of good tools, but it does me and the 40 kids I teach that year, it does both of us a lot of good, but it doesn't do other people, so I really need to be out there doing the work behind the work to be sure that it gets out there. And I love the consulting piece. I'm going to continue writing. I'm very satisfied writing. I do a lot of professional writing. And I think that's what I'm doing right now. I'm finishing up a book right now about how to teach literacy skills and comprehension skills to students that come in with academic struggles or linguistic struggles.
Yeah.
So behind 3, 4, or 5 years, and I've come up with a method to get them caught up to where they can participate in secondary in a powerful way. And I need to get that out to the public. So I'm finishing up that book, and hopefully it'll be out by April. And that will be called The Reading Review. It is going to be a dual language book.
That is awesome. I love that, because again, that is your step into making the impact again. So this is why this is such a beautiful thing I tell everybody again, these are free resources. So like you're talking about resource, this is a free resource. I want to teach everybody again how to use this. This is a wonderful tool if you can get it into the right hands, because then it becomes really impactful. Then it really puts meaning into it, because then you can imagine, what if your stretch goes beyond just your classroom? It goes to, it goes to 40 different classrooms at one time.
Right.
So you could actually technically farm this out and bring your lessons, bring the things that you're bringing that you want to teach. And as long as it meets certain criteria and guidelines, because I know each state is a little bit different, but I'm pretty sure,
there's a lot of denominators, a lot of LCDs.
Yeah. So exactly. So it's something that can something be transformed and translated across uh, state lines, who knows, country lines, because it's such,
Internationally. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Because again, the gentleman, and let me give him a quick shout out because his name is Russ Johns. He's the guy that's kind of been my mentor with doing this, and I thank him very much. Um,
Thank you,
for,
Russ.
for for walking me along these lines here. But he does this, and he interacts with people over in England and India, and has these people. So the stretch of his net goes way beyond just from his little office in Arizona that he's got, and it's making an impact because then he goes teaches 10 people how to do this, and they go out and do 10 other people, and that sort of thing. So he's starting his own syndicate to incorporate the people to come in and learn how to do this and do this in business and everything else. And I said, it's a wonderful idea because it is a wonderful tool, and used correctly, you know it can make a business, it can make an impact, it does so
It's
much more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's transformative, and it can smartly take things to the next level.
Yeah.
That's that's what I'm planning to do. So you're gonna have to mentor me a little bit on this because
I,
I love
I,
it. I think it's great.
I'm more than willing to pay it forward because the people who've helped me get along these lines and learn as much as I have, man.
Mhm.
I told them that I hope one day to be able to reciprocate to them or to pay it forward to somebody else, and that's my journey as I go along in this. And again, it's amazing that I get to reach out and have these conversations with people, and you never realize how receptive people are when you ask them, "Hey, would you like to hop on and let's talk, let's have a conversation. We can, you know, promote what you're out there trying to teach, what you're trying to grow, what you're trying to do." So, and most of the times people are like, "Yeah, all for it. Let's do it." And
Yeah.
it's nothing. It's again, it's nothing to worry about. People just get worried about this, the camera in front of them. Look, first 5 minutes to 10 minutes, butterflies go away, and that's when the real conversation starts to happen. That's where you can really go in there and get in depth and talk about what you want to talk about. And again, it just takes a little coaching. Uh, I'm not going to lie to you. The first time that I did it, the first time I got on here and did this, uh, I wanted to puke because I was just terrified. But
You were nervous.
yeah, but you go 5 minutes into it, it went away. I was fine. And after I was done, it was an exhilarating high. And I said, you know what? I'm hooked. I want to do it again. And I wanted to do it again and do it again and do it again. And so that's why I push myself, because I'm not just stopping here. When I said the theme of my year has been making an impact and challenging myself, I'm also working on a podcast which I'm doing with the co-host, and we're doing mental health because that's another issue that I think needs uh needs
Very
a lot
much.
more, yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
it needs a lot more addressing because there's so many issues involved with it. When you're talking about mental health, you're talking about anxiety and stress and depression and PTSD and all these things that go along that work within the human mind, right? So
Right.
there's tools, there's resources, there's research, there's all kinds of stuff that you can go out there and take in to help somebody, maybe change the way they think or the way they feel. And I don't tell them maybe I'm trying to fix a
That's
problem.
that's powerful work right there.
Yeah,
So I
and
think there's people that don't feel comfortable talking about that, and that's what we were talking about earlier. It's helping ushering people into having these discussions that are maybe not so comfortable to have, that are extremely necessary and need to be,
yeah,
and even with the technology,
yeah,
as they're coming into that space and they're hearing about it and they're learning about it, they can do that in a one-to-one, them and technology. It's not something that they necessarily have to do publicly. They're learning They're seeing, you're finding resources. You're I'm sure directing them to people and websites and sources for information that they can get help.
Yeah,
and that's great.
and there's plenty of resources. There's plenty of things to suggest. Um, just for example, you can tell somebody, have you tried meditation? There's certain different types of meditation that you can use that might help you, when you're feeling down, or when you're feeling depressed or stressed, or just learning about triggers and what triggers certain emotions, stuff like that. That's a whole nother interesting subject, because when people have panic attacks, right? Those are chemical reactions that go off in the brain, and what they do is they start your pineal gland starts pumping adrenaline into your body, unnecessary adrenaline. So you get that sensation where when you would be in, like, say, a scary situation, that would help you, because then you would be very aware of what's going on, and you would use that to, hey, I got to run or protect myself. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but when your body's just doing it just because you felt a sensation or a trigger, well, you got to know if there's certain things you can do besides just doing medication. So if you do like medication plus some kind of holistic healing or practice or anything like that, those are things that you can incorporate into developing a good mental health wellness program for yourself, and it can be tailored to each individual, because each individual person is different. I don't just believe in saying just getting a drug prescription is going to just help that one person. I think you got to go beyond that. There's
some people need more activity, or I was talking about this today. For example, this week luckily, I've been able to be helping a lot of my students with swimming.
Yeah.
And so, my school district has a swim initiative. And so for a week, we're swimming with the kids for an hour or so a day. That to me was as good as like a spa, because I was over there just doing the backstroke. I took from the high dive. My ears were just like busting. I'm like, I don't remember this, hurting my ears like this when I was 12 years old, but whatever, I did it again. So I mean, just being in the water and moving around, that was extremely healing for me. And but I think you're right. Like, dance is another thing I love. But yeah, I think everyone has something different, and we have different triggers too. You asked about my writing. One of the things that I have to have in place in order to write is I have to be at a place of kind of like stillness, and I need to feel nostalgic.
Yeah.
So it needs to be like a quiet pause where I'm feeling nostalgic and things are, so it doesn't happen all the time, but when it comes in a fury.
Yeah.
The only time that I can pull it like on program is when it's in work. It's like it's writing for work, for a purpose to get, which is also important, because that's where I do a lot of my development for the immigration and linguistic needs. That part I don't have to be in a mood for, but for my poetry and all the Nepantla, that's different. Yeah. That's a seasonal piece.
Yeah, and that goes to what when I was talking earlier about your creative process. Those are the things that each writer has to have or feel to get into that spirit of wanting to sit down and say, okay, I can do it today. It just comes because, again, you're not in that right state of mind, or you're not in that right area. Well, then, it just the words, the whatever you're writing down, it doesn't have the same kind of feel. You can tell when you go back and read your writing when you were in good days and when you were in bad days. You can always tell. Those are like gauges. You go back and read and say, man, what was I was in a bad.
It feels blocky. It feels stiff. Why does it sound so forced? And then I was making myself write, or maybe I wanted to write about something that I should have done the day before, and I was trying to wrap up the day after when I was no longer in the mood. It's just not the same. But
Yeah.
but
You know,
yeah, travel is another thing that just sometimes getting out of my beloved city that I love so much. Sometimes just driving an hour in any direction does it for me. Or getting on a plane if I'm at a place where I can. But typically, just stepping into nature or something like that clears the air, and
you know,
we're going.
yeah, that's where you draw the inspiration from. And then, for each individual artist, creator, they have that in them. They have so that's one of the themes that I've why I started doing some of the this whole purpose and the of why I call it made from scratch, because it's an idea. Anything you got. See that book standing next to you? It came from your mind. It was an idea, and it became a dream. Then it became a vision. Then it became a reality. So that idea, was made from scratch. It's like
I love that.
a good cook. So that's why I call it the. That's why I started calling that, because again, it doesn't matter, any idea, whatever you're talking about. The computer, the concept, whatever, it comes from an idea somewhere in your mind. And, for you to work it into to form it into an idea, from an idea into your vision, and then start working on it. And then when you make it a reality, it's such an accomplishment, because it was something that wasn't there before. It wasn't, and
Yeah, that's
it, it carries so much more weight, because once it gets out of your head and it's in a reality, it's into the world, and it's
it's
there.
amazing. I think of it as like creating something from nothing.
Yeah. So again, we have no clue what that book is and what it will be in 50 years, because again, I was talking again last night about this. F. Scott Fitzgerald, when he wrote The Great Gatsby, didn't think that was going to be curriculum that was put into high schools and taught to kids. And, it was just his idea, his story, and it came out, and it was such great literature. And again, nobody says, Hemingway didn't write Old Man and the Sea so he could, create course curriculums. It was an idea that flowed from his mind, and it was a story. And it went from story to creation to being a reality. So, in 20 years, that book could be something that people, even after you're gone, it's part of what your legacy is. And,
Wouldn't that be amazing? I thought about that. I was like, I wonder what course this would go into one day. I was like, it would be like, I don't know, probably in a Pantla course 10 years from now, I don't know. But 20 years from now, 50 years from now, I don't know. I could only hope. But like, for example, we teach Don Quixote, and we teach it every year without fail. And I teach the kids. I'm like, that's the power of writing. Like, he had a few setbacks, and he decided to, instead of sitting down on a rock and crying about it, which I'm sure he probably did as an artist at some point in time, he decided to put his pen to work and right all the wrongs of the world through literature. And so he wrote this story where he was, this greater than, this great phenomenal thing in his mind, where he was going to change the world and kill the giants and beat the monarchs.
Yeah, exactly.
But he ended up really just being later on a victim of his own reality. But through that, I tell the kids he taught us to pass the torch. Like, he passed the torch to us. Like, now it's up to us to fight the giants. It's up to us to, become this greater than what we already are thing in our minds, and giving us permission to do that. So, I mean, 500 years later, almost, that, or maybe even more than that, I can't think right now. I think it was written in the 1500s, Don Quixote, and now setting it today.
Yeah, we still study Shakespeare. I mean, So that teaches you the power of what literature can do. I mean, that's why I've always loved the art of writing, the art of creating of something like that, because we never know what it'll turn into. We never know how far to go. You know, if you would have known how many times L. Frank Baum was rejected when he wrote The Wizard of Oz, you know, he never gave up on it, and he kept writing it. He kept putting it out there, and
Right. That would have been a hard sell. If you think about it, that would have been a hard sell.
and yet,
The whole storyline a lot of the time was like, what?
yeah. So, and again, uh, even guys like C.S. Lewis, right? Okay, he never thought, or even like uh, J.R.R. Tolkien, they never thought that their works were going to become what they were, hundreds of years after they're gone. Again, it goes back to, I tell everybody, if you can write that story, if you can create it, get it down and put it down put it down on paper, put it into a book. You never know where it's going to find or where it's going to lead or what it could lead to.
Yeah.
You know,
I think a lot about, go ahead. I think
no,
a lot about the, a lot of the oral folklore and the oral stories that are told from us and passed on through us from our elders and our ancestors. I think if we could just write that down and do some justice to the stories that we have already in our families and write it down, record it, that becomes literature, because it starts out as oral, just folklore,
yeah,
and then it becomes literature. And as the younger generations behind us read it, it helps with their sense of identity. It helps with their sense of story. It helps with their sense of just understanding and having pride about who they are and where they come from. And so sometimes it doesn't even have to, the writing doesn't necessarily have to be a creation of something new that we're getting at. Maybe it's just an appreciation of something that's already there.
yeah.
And giving and legitimizing whatever is spoken and writing it out for the people behind us.
That's kind of like what A.A. Mine did when he wrote Winnie the Pooh. It was his little stories with him and his son and their journeys about his little bear, and it became something greater than what he could have ever imagined it was going to become. So it was kind of his folklore and their little stories that they shared together and that he put out there into the world. And now it's beloved by millions of children and even adults who still love the characters that he created. So, again, if you just take those stories, you write them down.
You already have.
Yeah.
And just write them in. And I say that I've been that's one of the things that I have way back here in the war is just my family was so rich with just tales and legends, and I could go on and on. I'm sure you know what several of those stories are. We have like La Llorona. We had all sorts of Kukui, which now I'm writing about Kukui. But we had, I don't know, we had, I was laughing the other day because I wrote it into one of our presentations. I didn't know if they were trying to scare us or what, but it worked because they would teach the young girls, they taught me and my sisters about these men with hooked feet that would be at the discotheques waiting for the young maidens. And so you were sitting there freaked out, and I was laughing because I was like, for years, all through college, I would, if I saw people, I'd go out with my friends, I would take a little glance at people's feet. I would be like, oh my goodness.
Oh Lord.
My parents did a great job. My parents did a great job of terrifying me. But that's like the folklore and stuff that just it's hilarious, and it's all created for a purpose,
and it's wonderful, and it's
funny.
I tell everybody, just take the chance and do it, man. Again, even if you don't, if nobody reads it, at least that's something that you can hold and say that's your accomplishment. That's something that you wrote. What is
pass pass on to the kids, you know.
So again, it'll find its way into where it needs to be. So, well, now you broke a record because my last night's record was an hour and 4 minutes I did with Wendy. So tonight we did an hour and 10, which is pretty awesome. And man, it didn't even seem like an hour. That's how fast it's gone by. So, Kat, I do appreciate you hopping on, and we will definitely do this again, because I always tell every one of my guests that even as we grow and we get further along in our journeys, that we also create new things, new ideas, and this is the forum to share it with. And I would love to have you on again at a later date once we do that. Okay. So before I go though, I have been pushing this right now. So the other, earlier this week we had the tragedies up in Tennessee. The tornadoes that happened, a lot of people's lives were affected. 27 people's lives were lost, and a lot of families and people were uprooted from their homes. So I'm just putting it out right now that if you want to help or donate, you can go to redcross.org, or you can call 1-800-RED-CROSS, or text the word Red Cross to 90999, and you can make a $10 donation. I'm pretty sure everything will help. I feel this way because, in our little town of Lancaster, we've had a couple of tornadoes here, and I'm pretty sure people's lives were affected that way. And I'm pretty sure they can sympathize with what's going on with these people right now. So again, and recently we even had the ones up in Richardson that happened in North Dallas. So, people's lives get uprooted and things happen. And I just would like to, help out as much as I can. And if this forum if I can use this forum to do this with other causes as well, which is what I'm planning to do every week. I'm going to pick a new cause and put it out there and just help people grow. Yeah. One person.
I have one.
Oh,
real quick. So my cause, when I go out to the Valley next time to go visit my family, so hopefully within a month, definitely by summer, I will be going, and I will be collecting clothing that I will be giving to a group called the Angry Abuelas and Angry Tias, which is helping to provide clothing for the students or the children that are waiting to seek asylum on the border. Yeah. And so they don't have, a lot of them don't have clothing. Their clothing is, ripped or whatever, shoes. And so I'm thinking too, especially with little boys and little girls, but it's hard to find boys' clothing. And I know that having a son, it's really hard to find it. So I'll be collecting some of those clothes to help take to that organization, Angry Abuelas and Angry Tias, that represent the students. But yes, definitely the children.
Awesome. Just send me the link and I can post it in the show notes afterwards and put it up on pretty soon. I have my own website. I'm having a website built for this strictly for this broadcast that I'm doing. So that way I'll be able to put all my links and everything for each one of my guests on there. So, hey guys, thank you for joining me this evening. I do appreciate you hopping on, and I do have a full week next week. Sunday, I'll get on there online and I'll have a little live chat, and I'll just introduce everybody I'm going to have for the week. But it's been a pretty awesome week this week. My goal this month is to go live 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday, for the whole month of March. So first week is in the books. Let's start next week number 2. And again, thank you for all my friends and family who've supported me. And I will see you guys Monday. Thank you, Kat, for being here. Everybody.
It's wonderful. I'd love to come back again.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great week, and y'all have a great weekend. And we'll see you again Monday.
All right.